There's an old quote by Grantland Rice, and he's talking about class. And he said class is a very hard thing to define. It could be the swing of a slugger's bat, could be the lift of a thoroughbred's hoof, could be the flick of a quarterback's arm. But he said once you see it, you'll never forget it. Tom Landry was class.
You gonna be a football player when you grow up?
Today is the best day of your life. Believe it.
He might be the finest quarterback produced in the last 10 years.
Philadelphia Eagles select Donovan McNabb.
And he said, I'm the best decision this organization has ever
Give me
made.
8 years of daylight. That's all I need.
Fortunately for me, I didn't lose my life, didn't lose my job. Football convinced me that life is a team game.
That's right, it's a game for men.
Rest of your life. Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it.
Was this the final game on the sideline for a great coach?
I want to thank you very much for making my day in the sun so memorable.
For 29 years, Tom Landry was the only coach the Dallas Cowboys ever had. But Landry was always more than a football coach. He was a symbol and an icon who floated in the twilight between man and myth.
A lot of people looked up to him as Mount Landry in a crazy, crumbling world. People looked to that silhouette shot as something they believed in, that they could hang their hats on. And he became iconic in sort of mid-career.
The hole in Texas Stadium is not as big as the hole in any theory that attempts to explain Tom Landry, the most perplexing personality in the National Football League. No one has penetrated the gunfighter stare, the grim face that makes him look like a regional director of the FBI or a brooding Hamlet.
To me, he was bigger than life. He let us know that he was here and we were there, and we are looking up to him. Whatever he said was the gospel.
He was the rock, and he became, for better or for worse, God-like, almost a football god on earth for millions of people.
But who was he? And how did the legend come to be?
I think you have to start with the man in the hat. That was the hook. So you'd see Tom Landry looking like a corporation executive from Mad Men or something.
He looked good.
I feel good.
He felt like if he wore a coat and tie, that he wouldn't be as emotional. Anybody can handle it when the ship is real calm.
This is what it's all about.
This is a killer.
But can you be a captain of a ship when the seas are in turmoil?
Staubach throwing in the end zone. Tony Hill, touchdown! Oh, the stadium goes wild!
You get mad when commentators state that you don't seem to be having too much fun coaching in the NFL.
No, I really don't feel that way. If you're concentrating, you're not smiling a whole lot. I enjoy smiling, but I don't enjoy it on the sideline. I'm all business.
He didn't show them anything very human. He seemed uncaring and unfeeling. A lot of them didn't like him when they played for him.
It doesn't do any good talking to Tom Landry because he's so plastic. I don't know, like he's just not a man at all.
Tom Landry never walked up to me once and said, "How you doing?" The image of Landry, the shadow figure with the fedora on, that could have been what was in there, that shadow. You know, and just a voice coming from behind it, you know, because there was nothing there.
It's just very difficult to have a very close relationship with a player. If you do, then you're probably not offering him the best that you can.
It was said Landry could win a staring contest with Mount Rushmore. One stone-faced look spoke more than 1,000 words.
If you get that square-jawed look and he looked at you, it'd get your attention.
Staubach, what the hell are you doing? He didn't say that. He would never, he wouldn't say hell even. He just gave me that look.
When we were playing the New York Giants, I got a touchdown, and I got so excited, throwing the ball in the stands. I landed wrong on my knee. Coach Landry, with his arms folded, didn't say anything. He just gave me the look. On their next series, my knee is killing me. It's already swelled up, but I got to go back out there. And Coach Landry called a pass play on the first play from scrimmage. And it wasn't just a quick out or slant, it was a post pattern deep. Man, I know why he called this, and I know what he's doing here. And so I limped through that route.
Staubach, he wants to throw. Looks deep, fires for a bunch way downfield for Drew. He's open and has a touchdown.
It was calculated. For him to be the type of coach that he had to be, he had to have that facade to be Tom Landry.
Meet the 1951 football giants. There's Bill Albright, number 75. There's Bill Stribling and Tom Landry.
Before he wore the trademark fedora, Tom Landry wore a helmet for the New York Giants.
Landry blocks the kick for point with his face.
You know, he was a great punter. He was one of the very best punters that ever came along. And he was also a very, very good defensive back, although he lacked speed. But he made up for his lack of speed by a great knowledge through studying film at that time.
This time it's intercepted by Landry, and Tommy takes off. 51 yards to the end zone.
Landry was a good player for the same reason he would become a great coach. He was the smartest man on the field.
Nice going, Tom.
By the age of 30, he was a player coach and the Giants' unofficial defensive coordinator.
It was always, you beat your offensive tackle or something and the play is over. Not with Landry. Everybody had a responsibility. One time, he intercepted a pass and I returned it for a touchdown.
Landry's tackled by Ball, laterals to Gifford.
I thought it was pretty good. I came over to the sideline and he said, "You were out of position." That broke the Landry defense, and you just didn't do that.
Competition is the thing that I miss most of not playing. You don't get a chance to drain off that emotion as a coach. You stand there and you watch and you suffer.
In 1954, Landry met his counterpart, an offensive coordinator Vince Lombardi. Both men served under head coach Jim Lee Howell.
When you think about it today, you think, boy, Tom Landry coached in the defense, they had Vince Lombardi coaching the offense. How in the world could they come up with something like that? Jim Lee Howell literally pumped up the footballs and got out of the way. When we scrimmaged, it was like a game, and we'd never let them score.
The Giants had one of the great defenses in pro football history in the late 50s, and Landry helped bring that about. And because of that, there was always this competitiveness between Lombardi and Landry.
The style was completely different. Lombardi was more vocal. He didn't mind chewing you out as a player. He didn't mind getting in your face.
Come on, Henry Jordan. You can't go everyone. Get the ball out of there. But do it right.
Whereas Tom, you could hardly hear him.
Stack a little bit more and your timing will be better if you'll stack a little bit more on the guard, okay?
He was like a math teacher. He had calculated this down to the lowest possible percentage of a failing. They were so different, and yet they were so alike in making you believe in their system. Vince, of course, was a very devout Catholic. Tom was a very devout Protestant, so I guess they didn't go to church together, but they certainly showed up on Sunday together, and consequently, we took a lousy football team and wound up ultimately winning the NFL championship in '56. When Lombardi went to Green Bay, I know that they exchanged playbooks. Were they friends? Yes. Were they antagonists? Yeah, on the football field. Did he respect Tom Landry? Lombardi used Tom Landry's defense all the time he was coaching. There's no other respect for that.
Lombardi ran Landry's 4-3 defense in Green Bay and won 5 world championships. But when Landry became head coach in Dallas in 1960, he scrapped Lombardi's offense and created his own.
Start where you're going to end up on a double shift, see? That way you can look at your situation before you shift the first time, see?
4-3, set.
Coach Landry got the most complicated, futuristic offense in the league. Coach Lombardi got the most simple offense that we ever played, except it was hard to beat them.
2 years in a row, the Cowboys and the Packers met for the NFL championship. Both games came down to one play from the 1-yard line. In 1966, Landry tried to outsmart Lombardi and lost.
Takes the ball, rolls out to the right. He's going to be nailed. It's intercepted in the end zone.
In the Ice Bowl a year later, Lombardi ran the most basic play in football and won.
Watch that star now, come on. Watch the keeper now. Star begins the count. Takes the snap. He's got the quarterback sneak and he's into the touchdown. And the Green Bay Packers are going to be world champions for the third straight year.
It really, really hurt him. I made one reference to it. He said you could recognize the Cowboy players. They're the ones with the broken hearts and the frozen fingers.
Landry never did beat Lombardi's Packers, but he outlasted him by 2 decades. Up next, Tom Landry goes winless for an entire season.
None of us got along with Coach Landry very well.
What do you think's wrong with the Cowboys?
They're a clean house, that's what I do.
Landry's early years were brutal.
The Cowboys are victims of pass rustling, again in the third stanza, and again the culprit is Ray Nitschke.
When Tom Landry became head coach of the expansion Cowboys in 1960, he was not an overnight success.
And that first season, no wins, 11 losses, 1 tie. You're in the desert.
None of us got along with Coach Landry very well. He was trying to teach us a system that we didn't understand. And he'd always tell us just to believe, don't think, just do what I tell you to do.
Right over the top of him, head on, take off right through that gap, let's go.
This is the system. This is how the system will work. And anytime the game on the field fell short of the picture in Tom Landry's mind, it had to be agonizing to him.
At home, Landry's Cowboys played to crowds of 5,000 and went 6 years without a winning season.
What do you think's wrong with the Cowboys?
Well, I just think that you don't know how to get along with them, in my opinion.
So what would be the question then you would ask Mr. Murkison, the owner?
I'd clean house, that's what I'd do.
If it would have taken a team that long to succeed in a later era, the coach would have been fired.
He never questioned his ability, and he would set a goal and he would work hard to achieve it.
He was fiercely competitive. The good thing is, though, he could forget about the loss and go on to the next game.
The greatest thing that competitive athletics does, it teaches how to meet defeat, not how to meet victory. Because I think that only through defeat is character built.
Tom Landry is building from the ground up, but he was resolute. He was a product of that greatest generation. People who thought and acted in terms of sacrifice for the greater good.
Tom Landry was a B-17 pilot in World War II. He had been through something bigger than football, and that was the war, and that was almost being killed.
And one time when he was coming back, the engines quit over enemy territory, and they all got up and got their parachutes on. They were going to bail out.
They're going down for, POWs.
Something he told me just made him stop and turn to the instrument panel. There's a lever on there that leaned the gas out, turned and moved it up to rich, and the engines all caught.
World War II couldn't break Tom Landry's stoic facade, but 6 years of losing seasons finally did.
After the game, Coach Landry said, you guys have given me 110%. He said, I couldn't ask for a better bunch of men to play for me. And he said, I feel like I've let you down. And then he actually started crying.
I think that's when all of us really knew how much this meant to Coach Landry. Because, to see a grown man cry, it caught all of us by surprise and made us want to win for this man.
Let's move fast, quick, like we did last week. Everything's all right. Ready? 60 out, cut.
Let's go!
Landry's tears were the turning point. The coach had connected with his players, and the Cowboys became contenders. But for 5 straight years, Dallas fell short in the postseason.
I can remember being the bridesmaids of the NFL, next year's champion, can't win the big one.
And that was killing him. You knew inside of him it had to hurt him, it had to be painful.
And it must have been galling to know how good they were and how close they were.
You can't imagine how it feels, because you never suffered with us like we've suffered.
Then they get to Super Bowl V, and they're better than the Colts, but everything goes wrong.
Get over there!
It's the Blunder Bowl, tipped passes, turnovers.
Wayne Thomas fumbled that football, and the Baltimore Colts recovered. They say the Cowboys cannot win the big one. Dallas should have been well ahead.
In my first years, we had keys. For every pass we had, key Meg, which was a middle linebacker, throw opposite Meg, and unless the weak safety goes weak, then throw strong. On paper, that's exactly what you need to do, but they were too complicated. You're dropping back, and you got a second and a half. You only get so much time.
All right, let's go. Timeout.
In 1971, the NFL's most brilliant coach did the hardest thing. He dumbed down his own system.
He changed and made it a lot more flexible, simplified it.
When Landry freed up Staubach, the Cowboys won their final 9 games and rolled into Super Bowl VI.
Staubach drops back to pass. That's up. Pass to end zone. Touchdown! It's the hammer by Ditka. Greasy goes back to pass. Looking safe. Back to the 20-yard line. Still safe. Back to the 15. Still being safe to the 10. He's got him.
What do you think, Coach?
I think it's pretty nice.
Congratulations. I'm really happy.
I don't think he expected the players to pick him up. That was one of the high points. They thought that much of him.
That might have made me happier than winning the game, to see a big, huge smile.
It's like an exorcism, He finally got the demons out of him.
You think this now takes the onus off that we can't win the big one anymore?
I would think so. Well, if it isn't, I don't know how you dispel it, I'll tell you that.
All of us were so happy for Coach Landry because we knew where this man had been and how he had stood up for us.
This was for the guy who wore the hat. This is for the guy that mattered. I mean, throughout history, they can write anything they want to ever write about the Dallas Cowboys. But it begins and ends with one name, Tom Landry.
Tom Landry was an engineer by education. When he drew on the board, it was so precise. He would draw the feet of the players when they'd step.
Coach Landry prepared every offense and every defensive game plan. I've never seen any coach, do that.
Tom Landry's mind was constantly at work. In New York, he drew up the 4-3 defense, still a standard over 50 years later. In Dallas, he kept innovating.
Everything in defense and offense is evolution. As we moved into the 60s, the offenses were able to influence the 4-3 and keep us from doing the things we did in the 50s.
One of the weaknesses of the 4-3 defense was the ability for guards or even tight ends on a double team block to come in and get to the middle linebacker and seal that off.
What we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here and try to run this play in the alley.
Coach Landry's flex defense was designed with the intent, number one, of keeping the middle linebacker free.
We protect our middle linebacker. We've got to keep the big men off of him a little bit, and we think the flex does that.
Fumbles the football, the Cowboys recover it.
Very tough to go against that Dallas flex defense.
And it was a combination of 2 defensive linemen tight to the line of scrimmage with 2 defensive linemen off the line of scrimmage.
We just try to offset some of our linemen to give us in a better position to control the types of blocking that they use today.
It's all about angles. It's all about math. It's all about engineering. It's all about Tom Landry's education. It all fit.
They cannot run against the Cowboys.
It developed Doomsday 1, it developed Doomsday 2, 2 of the greatest defenses in NFL history. The NFL is such a Me Too league, a copycat league, but nobody copied the flex despite its success because of one simple reason. Nobody could teach it.
These things that we take for granted in the modern game, that the offense is going to come out with one look and then shift into another look. Landry was on the very cutting edge of that.
The offensive line always came up in a 2-point stance and stand straight up and then go down. And when they stood up, that's when the backs shifted. The line standing up was kind of a screen, if you will, for the linebackers to see the final formation of the backs. Also, it's a little bit distracting. Whatever calls you had to make defensively, you would have to make them, then you'd have to change them when they shifted, then you'd have to change them again when they shifted, and then the ball would be snapped.
Roger back to throw across the middle. Pearson wide open, touchdown.
The thing that proves Tom Landry is a genius is that in the mid-'70s, he comes up with the offense of the 21st century.
Shotgun, here it is.
Now, some teams in the NFL use a shotgun more than 50% of the time.
They go from the shotgun. Roger looks left, fires it up there, caught by Tony Hill. Touchdown, Cowboys!
I don't know why, but I just have the feeling that Tom Landry might have a gadget that he might want to use.
He didn't want to call them gadget plays. He wanted to be plays that, had execution. And so he called them exotic plays.
And then hands it back to Staubach. How about Flea Flicker City? Staubach going deep for Tony Hill, who's all alone. Caught, touchdown!
When I was the defensive coordinator of the Giants, you had to be ready for some type of unusual deceptive play, reverses, flea flickers, double passes, halfback passes, end arounds, all those kind of things.
2 plays later, Ditka got 17 on a tight end around.
It was a chance for him to show off a little bit. Look at the big brain on Tom.
Other teams had to strain to adapt to the Landry methods.
Tom Henderson, number 56, a rookie, went 53 yards.
He recognized the value of the bold moves. You didn't see it in his suits or his hats, but you saw it in the way his team played on the field.
But this one's going to be a halfback option. Renzel all by himself.
Here again is another lesson for us all. Don't judge a book by its cover.
Landry was a watchmaker whose vision of the game was 1,000 parts, moving with clockwork precision. But to make his system tick, Landry needed football players, men of flesh and blood, who couldn't always live up to his X's and O's.
Oh, when I played, I mean, he would destroy you in the film.
He was expecting perfect execution on every single play.
We talk about perfection, it's execution that you're after. And the team that can do that will normally win the football game.
We would have won by 30 points the day before, and we would get out at the break and say, did we win yesterday? I feel like we got beat.
I got burned for 3 touchdown passes.
Waters was the victim several times, and the Cowboys lost.
And he ate me up in the film session in front of the whole team. But when we turned on the lights, he said, Charlie had a tough game yesterday. So he's pretty much responsible for losing that game. But you know what? If I had 45 players that tried as hard as he did, we wouldn't lose again. He had my heart from that point forward.
Coming up, Tom Landry's biggest blunder.
He believed that we could have 2 quarterbacks, we could alternate plays.
We're going to go with this 2-quarterback system.
Craziest thing he ever did.
He had complete faith in the system because he invented it.
6-7 pop, wing down and in. There won't be a soul in there.
Okay.
There was a running joke that Landry kind of resented the players because they were the only thing that could screw up his system.
Roger back to throw, has a man open in the end zone. Jumps in the end zone, Jackie Smith.
He devised a perfect plan every week. Dadgum players came in and screwed it all up.
Jackie was so wide open in the end zone, it was incredible.
We all knew that he thought that we were replaceable. You could come out as a gear and be replaced.
Come on.
He had more confidence in the system working than the individual players.
Is it going to hurt your football team to be without him?
Well, I don't think that a football team can be hurt with anybody. They can get rid of me or Roger or anybody else. One individual, it doesn't make that much difference in a team.
The system was cold and impersonal.
Roger goes deep across the middle.
But it worked.
Buck Johnson caught! Touchdown!
Players came and went, but from the 60s to the 80s, Landry posted 20 consecutive winning seasons, a record that might never be broken.
And
Danny back to throw into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown!
All the success did not come without a cost.
The system was too much for me. And I think I grew to resent him based on some of that. He didn't know I was a drug addict or alcoholic until, a couple of years later. Because he never asked me, how are you? It was all business.
Move against him, we've got to have confidence in our game plan. So you have to stay with our plan.
As terrific as Don Meredith was as a player, Don quit prematurely. He could have played several more years.
Could you tell where
Halfback?
Where the linebacker was on Bob?
No. He was just a cog in the system, and he just had enough of being that cog.
He was not an automaton. He was a living, breathing human being with flaws and foibles. And that's how you can be so brilliant as to invent the flex defense and not be able to make up your mind between Roger Staubach and Craig Morton and actually say, I think that if I just swap them out every play, the defense won't know what to do.
We're going to go with this two-quarterback system, mainly because both quarterbacks have performed winning style during the summer.
Craziest thing he ever did. Soldier Field in Chicago. We were a pretty good football team, and they beat us. We alternated quarterbacks on every play.
Despite all the fourth quarter heroics, even Roger Staubach was just another cog in the system, a system in which Landry exerted total control.
He really, I think as a coach, felt that he wanted to call the plays.
Go left and call 87 wing post, okay?
I called plays early on in my career. In '73, my mother was very sick and she was dying, and actually died through that season. She had pancreatic cancer, and we lost on Thanksgiving Day. His thinking was, Roger, I know what you're going through, and I'm gonna, I think I'm gonna start calling the plays. You just execute them, and I know what you're going through. So that was the reasoning. It's what he said to me then. Down deep in his heart, it was gonna happen.
When Roger went in to tell Tom that he was retiring, it was an odd kind of party. They didn't shake hands. Roger turned to leave, and then he stopped and he said, well, if I came back, would you let me call plays? And Tom looked up and said, no, we have a system here.
The system was successful before me. It'll be successful without me. Of course, the nuts and bolts of the Dallas Cowboys is a man that wears a funny hat on the sidelines.
They lose Roger Staubach. You know what they did the next 3 years? They went to the championship game. Every year. Some of that's Danny White. A lot of it's the system.
Landry may have had a jaw of granite, but not a heart of stone.
People thought, well, he's cold-hearted. He can just cut guys in. He brings them in. You're no longer a Cowboy. No, it hurt him. I watched him break down and cry when we cut a player.
Ken Hutchinson was a linebacker and a good player. When he cut him, he stood at that podium and cried. He said, I had to let it go of a friend today. And tears just coming down his face.
Guys who I know for a fact didn't like playing for him, didn't like him because he was too strict, too cold, too detached.
What happened, Charlie?
After they were done playing for him. Talked about him like he was their father.
I had a feeling for him that similar to someone similar to a father image.
He had a bigger impact on me than my father.
Okay.
It's like your father. You wanted to please him. And when he was disappointed in you, you felt that. You didn't just feel it peripherally, you felt that inside.
Landry was not as stoic as he appeared. He cared about his players, and occasionally it showed. Like when Drew Pearson almost lost his life in a car accident.
One look at Drew Pearson's car would indicate that he was lucky to be alive.
Lost my brother in the accident, and I'm fighting for my life. But every time I opened my eyes, there were 3 people I would always see. One was Harvey Martin, my best friend. The other was Roger Staubach, my quarterback. And the third person that shocked me was Tom Landry.
The loss of his brother and the responsibility he felt, you know, is just really a pretty tough thing to handle.
This was a time where we were about to go into a mini camp. He was there throughout the whole time. Didn't even coach the mini camp. I did not know he felt that way about me because he never showed that. But then again, that's the man.
When Thomas Henderson marked 10 years of being drug-free, he caught a glimpse of the man behind the mask.
Well, he came to my 10-year anniversary. Didn't know if he'd come.
It would have saved me.
The night of the event, he walked into the room, and he got on the podium and said to the audience that if I knew then what I know now, I would have handled Thomas differently.
Thomas has made a tremendous turnaround, you know, in his life. We can say he's Hollywood, and we can say he talks a lot and anything, but when a guy does what he does, he has a great heart, and that's awful important. And Thomas, boy, I tell you, I wish I'd have had you all through your career. We may have had 7 or 8 Super Bowls before it was over with.
I got emotional about that. He was just a great man, you know, misunderstood, but a great man.
Coming up next.
Tom, I said, I want to show you a film. And I put on Debbie Does Dallas. This is what is considered not wholesome.
They appear on television so often that their faces are as familiar to the public as presidents and movie stars. They are the Dallas Cowboys, America's team.
He didn't like being called America's team.
Tom found it unseemly. To stand on a stage and scream, "Look at me," was not who he was.
Tom Landry and general manager Tex Schramm were partners for 29 years, but it was Schramm's glitzy vision for America's team that sparked their only serious disagreement.
Dad didn't particularly like it because he felt like we had painted a target on our back, you know.
Other teams come after you much stronger than they've ever come because if you win a Super Bowl, you are the measuring stick.
We want Dallas! Dallas! We hate you!
Listen, they're a bunch of damn front runners, and let's come back at them. That's all they get for the rest of the afternoon.
Made it tough on us when we'd go to other places. We didn't care. We were going to beat them all anyway.
Some were heard to mumble that all the theatrical razzle-dazzle is threatening to swallow the sport whole, and at show business first, football second.
Here come the cheerleaders out. They have to go practice 2 or 3 hours every night, and after that they go out to a disco and sit around and drink till about 4 in the morning.
When Schramm added professional cheerleaders, Landry referred to them as unwholesome.
He and Tex went round and round about that, but Tex wanted to keep him.
And I brought him in and I said, Tom, I said, I want to show you a film. And I took and put on Debbie Does Dallas. And I said, now, this is what is considered not wholesome. And he looked at that for about 2 seconds, and then he bolted out of the room.
Landry wanted the focus strictly on the field.
Well, the Cowboys need a miracle.
And there, Dallas stole the spotlight in the 1970s.
Pearson makes the catch at the 5, touchdown!
The Steelers may have won more Super Bowls, but the Cowboys captured the country's imagination.
I mean, you gotta love the Cowboys. They're the most exciting team in the NFL.
Landry took the Cowboys to 7 NFC championships and 5 Super Bowls during the decade.
Play together all day long. Let's go.
The high point was a second Lombardi trophy for Landry in Super Bowl 12.
Pitch out. Newhouse goes left, pulls up, wants to pass, fires it deep for goalie Richards. Caught, touchdown!
This was a testament to the faith in the system and the way Landry continued to evolve as a coach, as a teacher, and as a strategist.
And there he goes. Landry, still calm, still collected. We'll put on another ring.
This cliche became the most effective, maybe in the history of sports. The hole in the roof of Texas Stadium is intended so God could look down on his team and his coach on the sideline, God's coach, Coach Landry. I think a lot of people in the Bible Belt went to church on Sunday morning and then felt like they went to a second service presided over by Coach Landry.
Someone who doesn't have that type of direction in his life, yeah, he may have to search out something that will put this crazy world of professional football into perspective.
There was the business Tom, and then there was the Christian Tom. It was quite a shocking dichotomy to me to watch Tom function through the football season and then change his entire nature as he left football during the offseason and traveled with the Billy Graham Crusade.
Tom is going to have his second team in for the opening event here. And we hope that it will bring some sanctification to the stadium and some blessing to the stadium.
Tom Landry.
Landry appeared at 54 Billy Graham Crusades, including the first event in the new Texas Stadium.
But it was just a little while before I found that there was still an emptiness and a restlessness in my life.
He told me, this job I have gives me the best platform I could ever have. It's meant for me to stay in coaching, to be able to witness his Christian faith and influence people.
Hearts are restless, O God, until you find your rest in Thee. Thank you very much.
Coming up, Tom Landry's final days as the Cowboys head coach.
The public was screaming for him to be removed as a coach, screaming every night. I took calls every night.
Montana on the rollout to the right side. Being chased, finally fires in the end zone. Clark, touchdown!
In the 1980s, Landry's Cowboys fell short in 3 straight NFC championship games, then began to fall apart.
He was the reason for his own demise. The league had taken all of his innovative schemes and taken it to another level. Well, the flex defense became, I hate to say it, obsolete. And I went in to see him one off season, and I had suggested to him that we go to a 3-man front. Well, when I presented that to him, he looked at me like I had accosted his daughter or something, you know. It was just like, it was taboo.
He was the coach who was in total control and suddenly had lost control of the cogs. There was a new wave of players who weren't buying into the mystique.
Landry and the Cowboys had become mortal. In 1985, they suffered the worst defeat in team history at the hands of Landry disciple Mike Ditka.
Did I feel like beating my dad? I felt worse. He took a chance on me as a player when I wasn't sure I could play anymore. And he took a chance on me as a coach when I didn't know if I could coach. He gave me 2 opportunities in life to change my life completely. And I said, Coach, I'm sorry. You know, I really am.
I respect Tom Landry. He'll be in the Hall of Fame. There's no question about that. But I think the game's passed him by just a little.
The public was screaming for him to be removed as a coach, screaming every night. I took calls every night.
We would have to assume, looking at those circumstances, some sort of threat in regard to Landry, but Tom is not on the sidelines as we start the 4th period.
He went walking off the field with a police escort, and he is very much aware of what it looks like if he doesn't come back out.
After learning he was the target of a death threat, Landry returned to the field wearing a bulletproof vest.
Tom Landry flew bomber missions in the war. He's not bowing down to some crackpot calling in a threat.
I didn't like it at all. I wasn't sure, you know, that there's somebody wasn't planning to do that. I did notice the players weren't standing next to him.
And I thought that was another moment where a lot of the players looked up and said, wow, he is fearless.
Tom, you're amazingly calm for somebody who just got their life break.
I don't know. I'm awful calm anyway, most of the time, regardless of what happens.
Landry was not bulletproof. For the first time in 2 decades, Dallas was a losing team, making Landry vulnerable in the eyes of owner Bum Bright.
Bright did not love the fact that Tom had no use for him. So when he decided to sell the Cowboys, he handpicked a lesser bid from this unknown guy from Arkansas, Jerry Jones. because Jerry was the only potential buyer who said, I'm sorry, I don't want to keep Coach Landry. I'm going to bring my own guy in, Jimmy Johnson.
The truth is, Tex wanted to make a coaching change.
Tex told me, he said, you have a luxury that I don't have. He said, I've worked with Tom for 29 years, and it just wasn't in me to make a change.
If the previous owner, Bum Bright, had any respect for Tom Landry, he would have let Coach Landry know this new guy is very interested in bringing in his own coach. I don't think that was Jerry Jones' responsibility.
I got on the plane with Tex, and we went down to Austin to have our visit with him there at the golf course.
We were on the second tee, and a message was sent down that Tex Schramm would be coming to see him, and so to stay close.
There was a clubhouse area that was private, and we went in there and they had a discussion.
I was very aware of how sensitive this meeting was, and I really did know how he was revered and respected as the coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And I basically said, Coach, the thing that I do feel is in best interest of everyone is that we make the coaching change right now. Coach Landry shook my hand. He was majestic. He was just as you would expect Coach Landry to be, and said, I wish you the best, and we parted.
Bum Bright, you know, he rides off into the sunset, you know, with the big white hat on and the white horse, and here's Jerry Jones from Arkansas who fired Tom Landry.
And this is just a classless act.
They've embarrassed us. We are proud people. We're proud of our football team and proud of all this, and the way they've done it has just torn that all down.
I think that Buddy Ryan of Philadelphia's got more class than our new owner, Jerry Jones.
Announcing I had bought the team right in the same moment that I visited with Coach Landry about the change. Those weren't to be in the same day, and it was a real mistake.
And people in Dallas, Texas still refer to it as the Saturday Night Massacre.
Y'all, you look like you're in pretty good shape. You're dressed for the occasion.
You look pretty sharp, too.
The funeral?
It was the biggest mistake never made. Okay, you don't fire Tom Landry. Tom Landry? He made football.
You never know how many fouls you have, boy, when you try to clean them out. Gosh, it's amazing.
To see him being forced to clean out his desk for the last time after 29 years was a crushing sight for every Dallas Cowboy fan.
If you see Tom Landry putting picture frames in a cardboard box, what does that make him? Makes him just like you and me. We don't want to hear about that. Tom Landry's not like you and me. He's Tom Landry.
It's very, very sad. It's tough when you break a relationship that we've had for 29 years.
For 5 years, Texas E. Schramm tried to finesse the graceful exit for God's coach, Coach Landry. And in the end, it took the image of the villain, Jerry Jones, the Saturday Night Massacre, to allow Coach Landry to become the martyr that he deserved to be. Sort of that Christian motif, it's like he was sacrificed and went to heaven. Slightly overstated, but true.
I think one of the greatest tributes to my father was that when he passed away, that this town shut down for a week. Well, you don't do that for a guy that's won a few football games.
I went to the service, to the graveyard, and I just, I lost it. I mean, I really lost it. If you're lucky in your life, a man will come through your life that makes a difference. We had a rocky relationship, but I'm so glad I knew him. I'm glad I met him. I know that I'm better because of knowing Tom Landry.